everybody's familiar with charitable giving, but so many people aren't familiar with the structure of a community foundation.
They can partner with us by just reaching out, send an email. They could apply for a grant. We have 3 grant distribution cycles each year, and tell us more about their program, what they're doing, who they're serving. Giving Week is our signature event. To date, I think this was the 6th year, and we have dispersed $3.2 million out between what we've given and what's come in from the community to charities in our area.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Chimes Dimes, brought to you by First Wealth and Trust here in Winter Garden. I'm Pete Baksh, Chief Investment Officer here at First Wealth and Trust, and today I'm joined by Sarah Herrick, who is the Executive Director of the Community Trust, the Mount Dora Community Trust, and Rob English, who's the Development Director at the Mount Dora Community Trust. We want to take a minute to thank the Winter Garden Heritage Foundation for allowing us to film here in this wonderful location. This is just filled with local history here, generations of it, and it's kind of inspiring. The Heritage Foundation has a mission to preserve and celebrate the rich history of Central Florida and West Orange County in particular, while fostering innovative cultural experiences. They aim to connect our community with the past while inspiring future generations to shape a vibrant and culturally rich future. In this episode, we're going to be discussing community trusts, and that's a powerful vehicle for local impact that we can have. And I suppose to start us out, Sarah, would you mind saying a few words about yourself? And we'll do it by way of introduction, and then we'll have Rob introduce and so forth and get into it.
Sure. So my name is Sarah Herrick. I'm the Executive Director at Mount Dora Community Trust. I've been with the trust about 10 years now. I started in 2015 when it was just still a very small organization in First National Bank and a cubicle of donated space on the second floor. And we very soon after that purchased an office and renovated fully. And now we're in a beautiful little home on North Donnelly Street in Mount Dora, which has been great for visibility and for people getting to know who we are and awareness in the community. We give philanthropic grants to a number of nonprofit organizations. We develop program capacity with different nonprofits to ultimately benefit our entire community and the surrounding areas and making it a better place to live.
All right. Well, thank you. And Rob, maybe a couple words about yourself, introduction-wise.
I'm Rob English. I've been with the Community Trust since 2018, and Sarah preceded me, as she said before. My position right now is the Development Director, and so my job is actually new business development, focusing on what I love the most, which is out in the community, talking to new fund prospects and doing that. As Sarah alluded, we started in that bank with a $10,000 investment from Mr. Lawrence Williams to start us off as a public charity. We've come a long way. We have close to 100 funds underneath our general philanthropic fund right now that Sarah with the team and the office manages very, very good. So we're excited going forward with the opportunity in Winter Garden.
Sure. Well, thank you. And I suppose my first question will be the most natural one for the layperson out there and the viewer just tuning in. You know, what is a community trust and how does that impact the community? How does somebody get involved with it? And this is a conversation y'all can both kind of jump in on it. But
yeah, so the Community Trust, we are a community foundation. I think that's what most people know it as. There's about 300 community foundations in the United States, and they're based on a geographic area. So in Florida, there is North Florida Community Foundation that's in the Panhandle. There's one in Jacksonville, Ocala. Then there's us, St. Pete, and then the other side, Miami Foundation. So they are very geographically focused to support philanthropy in those areas. We do a lot of investments with donor dollars. People can come to us to set up funds to perpetuate their legacy, whether it be their family legacy or a donor advised fund while they're alive for different causes that they're passionate about. But ultimately, it's, the geographic area to make a difference in a positive way. There's so many different areas that are impactful, and they vary from state to state. So community foundations are a nonprofit umbrella, basically, for people to come set up their legacies and to continue to help us make a difference.
To expand on that, what people come to us for is their legacy, as Sarah said, but they look at scholarships with us, donor advised funds, designated funds. What am I missing, Sarah?
There's field of interest.
Field of interest, yeah.
Unrestricted funds. We have 5 different main types of funds people can set up.
So maybe, and I don't mean to cut you off. No, if there's more there, but that's a whole topic in and of itself. So
it is.
So we have donor advised funds versus a fund that might be set up for scholarship or any of these things. Somebody, an individual in the community or family in the community or an organization comes to you all with a desire to, fund one of these type of ventures and then you handle it, or how does that work?
So the first question that we ask somebody is if they want to be able to advise what grants are paid out of a fund with us. I think that is the big differentiator between what types they might be interested in setting up. There's 3 or 4 types. Our distribution committee do the grants. They decide the grants and research. And then the donor advised fund is a very specific type of giving vehicle is what it's called, that they can set up in order to, they give a donation, they get the tax write-off that year that they make a donation, and then they can recommend what grants that we pay out of it over time, and then tell us what should happen with the fund. If there's any residual left over when they pass, then it would go over to our board in whichever field they desire.
What differentiates us, to expand on that, as Sarah said, the big houses, Fidelity, Wells Fargo, and everything have the donor advised funds and things like this. We primarily focus on what you want to do for your legacy, how you want to leave your life when you pass on. And so these different funds allow you for perpetually for 100 years, 200 years, et cetera, with our staff to manage your fund as if you were alive, following the guidance and the agreement. Mm-hmm. And so that's different because the big houses, they don't do that. They want to close them out after you pass. And we also have staff, too, that answers the phone that'll give you guidance. Now, a donor advised fund or any of these funds obviously can make a charitable donation anywhere in the U.S., but most of ours are interested in the greater Central Florida area.
Yes, sir.
Lake County, Orange County, Sumter County, Seminole County, that area. So this is where we can really do well. Sarah's staff, I'd like her to expand on that, really digs in deep when a donor comes to us and says, what do you know about this charity? So expand on that, Sarah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest benefits of giving locally to a community foundation rather than one of the national programs is the research that we do and the impact that we try to make. So we, in the last 5 years or so, have paid really close attention to the research aspect of it and telling donors what needs there are in their local community rather than giving to, Red Cross or some of these national programs, which, those are great programs and dollars are still definitely needed there. But we also were able to work with PhD fellows with 4 to 5 different universities and ultimately built almost 100-page community needs assessment for Lake County specifically. And it compares Lake County to the state of Florida, to the United States on all different types of things. Transportation, health outcomes, median age of life, and how many college graduates there are, how many people turn out for voting, for civic engagement, how many people volunteer, things like that. So we're able to pinpoint, 3 to 5 different key areas every 3 to 5 years that we really want to focus on and build capacity there so that it actually improves their local community.
That's great. Yeah, a tailored approach.
It is. Working with people do write their own checks out of their own checking account, obviously, or have another program already set up with a bigger operation, as I explained before. But one of the things that we offer, which is pretty cool, is we can draft an agreement for what your charitable heart is and not even open it up until you pass. And because you never know how much money you're going to need in your life, a couple or just an individual. And so it's all set upon passing. Then your trust agreement or will or whatever designates the percent of funds that you want to come in, and the fund gets opened then. Mm-hmm. And so we offer while you're alive or after passing. And so many people are focusing now more so on the after passing. We've opened up quite a few in the last couple of years where they won't even be fully funded or operational until the people have passed.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the questions that kind of arose while I was preparing for this, who is the trustee of this trust? It's a committee. That's
a great question. The Mount Dora Community Trust is the first line of operation. So when you have a fund with us, Sarah and the team obviously make sure that every donation is a charitable donation with a 501c3 organization.
Yeah.
I'd like her to expand on it more. But then the second level of trustee is the First National Bank's trust department. The trust department serves our trust because we are a trust with them, just like your own trust that you guys have at home. And so there's two levels of it. And it gives security to the people that have funds with us, and it's particularly after passing. It is going to be managed properly forever with that type of defense. Expand a little bit more.
Yeah, so the Mount Dora Community Trust is pretty unique. Most community foundations, I think prior to 1975, were community trusts. They have since mostly transformed over to community foundations, which is a corporate structure. So you would go into your, state of Florida Division of Corporations and make a corporation, appoint a CEO who, recruits a board of directors, which is how most community foundations operate. And then their donated dollars, they seek out many different trustees, mostly based on financials. So they, you bid, just like if you were to respond to a request for proposal,
Sure,
you would say, this is what we could do. The community trust is different in that we never made that transfer over to being a corporate entity. We are still a trust. So we are a charitable trust. So our attorney calls it a trust form community foundation, which is a really important distinction, which means we have one trustee, which is the First National Bank of Mount Dora, who oversees kind of everything that we do legally, making sure that it's all compliant with IRS regulations and that everything that we do is above board. And it's another layer, I think, for donors to be able to trust what we're doing. There's oversight there by the bank, and we don't have a board. It's called a distribution committee. Mm-hmm. So they oversee all distributions, every dollar that leaves the Mount Dora Community Trust, but the bank is, every time we request a payment out, that's that next level of asking.
So you've got that oversight. Yeah. So what I'm gathering from this is, for the viewer out there who might not be familiar with the world of philanthropy, what you all are doing in essence is simplifying the whole area for them, right, taking care of the administration of it, finding the relationships with the different charitable organizations and kind of matching them up. And helping people to figure out what their legacy is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's powerful. It was interesting. At the beginning of this talk, we mentioned that this was founded with $10,000 some decades ago. And now it's been serving the community. Can you, kind of elaborate on the story of how that happened from the point of view of, if a community wanted to implement something like this of their own?
Yeah.
What is it going to look like and how does it impact?
Yeah, so this community trust was formed after a community trust in Ohio. So there was the Mount Vernon Community Trust in Mount Vernon, Ohio, that was created by our founder's father. So his name was B.D. Williams, and he was a Fortune 500 CEO up there, Fortune 300 CEO in Ohio. And Lawrence Williams, his son, worked for the company. He eventually made his way down to Mount Dora and loved it so much, saw what an impact it made in Ohio, and came here and wanted to do the same thing. So we have an original letter hanging in our office from 1972 that just says he loved Mount Dora so much and wanted to keep it someplace special to live, I think was the wording. And so he came to First National Bank of Mount Dora. He already had some business there and multiple properties owned by, loaned through the bank.
Okay.
And went into the trust department and had $10,000 and said he would give $10,000 as a match if businesses would match his funds, his donation. And it started with just that small amount of money in 1972. And for a long time, I think until the early 80s, I want to say, it was just one fund. We had one account, the general, what's known as the General Philanthropic Fund now. I think then it was just the Mount Dora Community Trust Fund. That was the time that other people started coming to the community trust interested in having a fund of their own for different purposes, or asking about the potential or the possibility of opening an advised account or having a committee for their account to benefit a very specific area. One of the earliest examples is the library. When they were building the new library, and the city did not have a way of separating funds that were allocated or donated to build and keep up the library. So they came to the community trust and ultimately gave all those donated funds that were intended for the city to us so that we could separate it out and have that to benefit. So it's a good question how other people can form a community trust, because it was definitely done in Mount Dora and very successful. I think that for people here, I think it would be having some people that were really dedicated to wanting to keep their area special as well, and to partner with a financial institution and have the early talks on who would be on the board, and would this be a corporation or a charitable trust account? How would grants be distributed? Are there key focus areas? That different types of things. But it's definitely doable and not something that's overly difficult.
Thank you. Yeah. And I suppose I have one more question, on community involvement and seeking donors. This one, maybe I'll put your way as you're doing the business development. When you're, out there in the community looking for donors and, community involvement from businesses, what kind of responsiveness are you getting? And how does that look?
Good question. Everybody's familiar with charitable giving, but so many people aren't familiar with the structure of a community foundation. So first of all, I have to explain that structure to them and explain to them about the benefits of going through a community foundation for their charitable giving while they're alive first, whether it be a scholarship account or some of the other scholarship accounts that we've talked about. The interesting thing is, as I said earlier, so many people want to open an account with us while they're alive, but it tends to be a smaller fund while they're opening. And so that has been a challenge with us to get people to ensure that the fund is large enough to be able to invest with an investment department at the Mount Dora Community Trust trustee, which is the First National Bank of Mount Dora's trust department. And so it has been a little bit of a challenge, but more lately as we've grown and we get more exposure out there with the attorneys, the financial advisors and things like that, it's become much, much easier to do that. And so it's a challenge, though. It really is to make sure that they understand who we are and what we are.
And if a nonprofit is watching this, or a representative of a nonprofit, and they're interested in partnering with a group like yours, what's the route for them to do that? I mean, I know you're looking for donors on one side, but you're also looking for the actual foundations on the other side.
So the nonprofits can participate in our organization on both sides. They can have an endowment with our community trust where it's almost like a savings account for them. And it can be started by a donor giving a sizable donation that they maybe don't want all the principal spent up. They want it to be invested in that income to be paid to the charity annually. Mm-hmm. So we would invest it, and that would just be designated beneficiary out to that nonprofit. Many older nonprofits that have been vastly successful have endowments. I think that's how many have been sustainable over time, especially larger ones. And on the other side, as far as getting and receiving grants, they can partner with us by just reaching out, send an email. They could apply for a grant. We have 3 grant distribution cycles each year, and tell us more about their program, what they're doing, who they're serving, how they're impacting the community overall, and how they're determining that. The key point indicators that are letting them know exactly what difference they're making in the community is kind of what our distribution committee wants to see.
Yeah. One of the advantages of having a community trust or a community foundation in your area is things that we can do to help facilitate growth, make the life better, make the community better. And the 3 things that come to mind is the Lake Cares Food Pantry wanted to build a new building. They needed a new facility. They'd outgrown it. We helped them facilitate that. The high school wanted to improve their stadium with the stands and the concession stand, and we started 6 years ago on doing that. Sure. And then finally, the one that's cornerstone is Giving Week. Giving Week is expanded off the Giving Day, which starts the Tuesday after Thanksgiving every year and goes for just one day. But Sarah came up with the idea a few years ago to do it for a whole week, and I'd like her to explain that because we have brought 30 different nonprofits together every year in this campaign, and we've raised tons of dollars, millions. I want her to say the figure, but it's just amazing. So having something like this in Winter Garden with our help would be just tremendous for the community.
Yeah, Giving Week is our signature event. It has developed into our signature event. I went to a conference a few years ago, well, more than a few, when I first started in Charleston, North Carolina, that was called Community Foundation Boot Camp. So there's these membership organizations, that do informational conferences on different things to do with philanthropy. And this one was specific to community foundations. And while I was there, I learned about Giving Tuesday. Obviously, everyone hears about Giving Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Everyone gives to different charities and different philanthropic causes. But I learned that a lot of foundations were doing kind of a telethon type program on Giving Tuesday, where they would stay up in the office for 24 hours and take phone calls and online donations, and people would come in with checks, and they were raising money for all of the area nonprofits. So we obviously have a very small staff. We're one of the smaller community foundations that exists. So it wasn't necessarily feasible to be up for 24 hours, especially in a retirement community like Central Florida. So we decided to make it a week long. So what we do is that whole week from Tuesday to the following Tuesday, we chose 30 different nonprofits from the area that we are vetted and verified that we work with regularly on different projects and programs. And invited them to come participate in kind of a contest. So we raised money all week. We ended up creating a web page where you can go on and pick your nonprofit, and there's a live graph to show who's in the lead, and it really gets the competition going. And it really encourages people to, when they're going, if they only give one time a year, that's the time of year that they'll come and support the nonprofit of their choice. And we give away $100,000 is the incentive. Between all the different, so we separated them into categories because some are obviously a lot bigger than others, like the Waterman Hospital Foundation is going to be a lot bigger than a grassroots one that just started. So we have them separated into categories based on their average amount of donations each year. And in each category, first place was $15,000 that they would get if they raised the most. Second place, I think, was $7,500. And third place was $4,000. And then we did some special little contests throughout the week. Like day one was $10,000, dollar for dollar matched until it was gone for anybody that came in. So it was a lot of fun. And we, to date, I think this was the 6th year, and we have dispersed, I want to say $3.2 million out between what we've given and what's come in from the community to charities in our area.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting. The event brings out, seems like every year brings out an angel donor, as I call them, somebody that would not normally donate this type of significance. Last year, we had over a $200,000 donation from an angel donor to one of the smaller categories that Sarah was referring to. So it's fun, which surprised everybody at the end, but that's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess for the folks out there that are, viewing this, and maybe they're not ready to make any donations now, but they're wondering who is, you're working with. Is there a list anywhere out there?
Yeah. So we have a brand new, beautiful website that's pretty easy to navigate. It's MountDoraCommunityTrust.com, and Mount is all spelled out, MOUNT. It's pretty simple. To navigate. When you get there, you'll find a button at the top that says Giving Week, and it'll tell you all about kind of that contest and which organizations are a part of it. This year, we're going to start accepting applications for new nonprofits to join the competition. And there's a bunch of other information on our website as well. If you want to set up a fund, or you want to apply for a grant, or are interested in the different types of funds that we have, want to know more about our trustee and our investment side, all of that information can be found on our website.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. And I suppose the last question here is, when an individual wants to come set something like this up, some planned giving, so some type of a vector to go down, how is that conversation like? They want to set up a fund for some specific purpose in the future, whether it be, through some some specific charity or some other way of doing it. How does that look with you guys?
That's a real good question. And some people, when they come to us with the initial phone call, usually they know already they want to set up a scholarship account, designated fund or whatever. But a lot of them just want to be charitable in general, and they need a lot of guidance. And so we offer the opportunity to counsel them over the phone. They can come to our office, or more particular here recently, I'm doing a lot of going to them and meeting with them directly, either in their home or their office or whatever, coffee shop or whatever, but making it convenient for them. And like I say, some are very, very fixed on what they want to do, but most of them I'm finding they aren't. And so feel free, anybody at any time, to call us up or go on the website and go into request a answer from our staff as far as a meeting, because it is a slow process, as I said earlier, and we guide you through it and answer all the questions beforehand. But the steps would be, obviously, we narrow them down, as I said, drafting a fund agreement at that point in time based on conversation from the business side of it, what they're interested in, drafts back and forth, and then ultimately just signing and coming on board with us. And our minimum to open is $25,000. So it's not a huge amount, but that's what we ask to start with and grow from there, to be able to manage the account for growth, which is obviously important, having more to donate. So we'll work with you just in whatever pace that you're interested in.
All right. Anything to add, or?
Just that the $25,000, if you don't have it all at once, can be met within 5 years.
Oh, that's
big selling point to a lot of people that might not have $25,000 check to write. We have a family whose kids all just graduated from private school, and the last one, so they have an extra at least $5,000 to $10,000 a year that they were going to decide some different charities, but they didn't have the $25,000 right off the bat. So what they're doing is donating $5,000 of that they were paying every year into a fund to set up a scholarship fund for their grandfather who passed. So it's doable as long as you have the desire.
Well, that's great. Great information. And, I think I want to close there. This has been fantastic information, and really appreciate the both of you coming on. I think there's a lot of really useful information, both from the standpoint of what you all are doing, or from the standpoint of someone out there that's wanting to create a similar vehicle in their community. So this has been really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And with that, thanks to all of you out there as well. As you know, financial advice and, things like this, trusts and giving and philanthropy and all of this, highly individualized stuff. Don't take this general film as necessarily being specific advice for your situation. Feel free to reach out and call us if you've got questions. We love to talk about this stuff. And if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell your friends and family. And thanks for listening to our podcast.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.